Welcome back to my podcast, dear listeners. We're on episode 76, and today I want to tell you a little bit about my self development, my inspiration, my decision to do character development and to just become my best version, and also some downsides. As I've mentioned before, Dad was an army officer, the first one in his family to do engineering, the first one in his family to become an army officer. We have a lot of family who are Jawans, like somebody who would drive for the army officers. We have truck drivers in our family. We have mostly rural family that does farming, but also others who do blue collar jobs. So among all of them, for my dad to straight away do engineering, become an army officer, and then start working at Godrej, and then exposing us to what an army officer's life would be like in the form of the Juhu Army Club, it was like I was straddling two worlds at the same time. On the one hand, I was looking at this glamorous, beautiful, fun, progressive, open-minded, liberal worldview. I was seeing how great people can make their lives, how positive their outlooks can be, and how they try to make their lives better and more fun and be maybe more compassionate, more liberal, evolve their thinking, to look to be progressive, to aim towards higher goals and move towards them. On the one hand, I was looking at all these inspirational aspects of what I saw around me. And on the other hand, when I saw my rural cousins and their thinking and how they spoke, that appalled me. But they are family, and I don't know how to reconcile, because if you look at some typical urban armchair philosophers, as they are called, they are so out of touch with how other people's lives are that they may say certain things that sound so ignorant, in the sense of they don't know what's going on with the lives of the other people who did not get the opportunities to expand their minds and those kind of things. So they don't understand why someone has limited thinking or why they say what they say. Whereas here I had access to both worlds and I could empathize with both. But I still felt that some of the things done or thought by people who came from maybe what we call backward backgrounds, or who had limited resources and limited means and grew up like that, I still felt some of the things that they did or thought were inexcusable. For example, in the 90s in Bombay, there were lots of migrant workers who would come from different parts of India, and about 50 a day probably, like they would do jobs like maybe street hawking or some other blue collar small time jobs. Now all of these people probably came from a rural background, villages. There's probably nothing and very regressive and conservative thinking. I get that. And then they enter the big city. Now in the big city, there's a whole different mindset, and they get into the same buses as us, students, girls and boys. We get into buses, we get into trains, we walk the footpaths, we walk the streets, we get into rickshaws. In the big city, we were made to feel like we were not different from boys, like we had the same rights, we could have the same confidence, and we could have the same fearlessness as we went about our day in public places. But with these people, these migrants who came, possibly other people also, I wouldn't say it's just the migrants, but the level of eve teasing we faced on a daily basis, it was disheartening, it was heartbreaking, it was kind of spirit breaking, and it used to evoke so much red hot anger in me. I'm walking on the footpath, minding my own business, either looking down or looking ahead of me, and there's maybe people around me, trying my best to navigate and just get from the footpath to the station without being touched on purpose in a sexual manner. Is that such a difficult thing to do? Apparently it was. On a daily basis, getting into the bus, standing in the bus, walking near the station, everywhere you were groped. And these people's methods were getting more and more evolved. Initially, they used to try to just walk into you so they could bump your chest. Then they evolved into walking past you, then reaching their hand behind and grabbing your butt and quickly walking away, dispersing into the crowd. It is so disgusting, absolutely disgusting, that they thought it was okay. And what did they think of themselves after they behaved like that? Like, were they proud of themselves? I just don't understand this mindset of acting on your intrusive thoughts. I get it that you had a thought, you were aroused, you felt sexual, whatever. Somebody looked really good, you saw a girl, she was really curvy, you felt attracted to her. But what was your action after that? You went and groped her, you made her feel like a bit of dirt, you made her feel cheap, You made her feel disgusted. You spoiled her mood. What kind of assholic people do that? I used to get so furious, and I did not know at the time that maybe my range of emotion was more intense than that of the average person. I thought everyone's reactions were on a similar spectrum of range from extremely happy, extremely joyful, extremely angry to extremely calm. Apparently, everyone doesn't experience such intense emotions. I found out years later, decades later. So I used to feel such fury, such red hot rage that I used to just think that मैं अमृत शक्ला, मैं कृपान चक्का, इन्ना दे मारां कृपान, which means that in Sikhism we have this induction into the faith where you undergo the ceremony and you are given this kirpan that you can carry with you at all times, like a little sword or a little knife with a strap that you keep on your person all day. So I used to get so angry at these eve teasers. I used to feel that I should just carry a kirpan, and the moment someone touches me, I should just stab them. These violent thoughts used to erupt as a result of these eve teasers just disrupting my calmness or my mindset. That was the level of anger I felt towards these eve teasers. And I could not believe it when years and years later, someone while chatting, when they were anonymous, and they talked about eve teasing as though the girl enjoyed it. And they went on and on in that ignorant vein, saying again and again, but girls enjoy it, don't they? They went on and on and on. And I could not believe it. I was so appalled. I was like, no, what made you think any girl enjoys that? And they're like, no, they do, right? And I was like, no, they don't. And it took a lot before the boy was like, oh, is it? Do the girls not like it? Duh, the girls don't like it. What made you think they like it? Oh my God, I need to calm down. Hold on. There was this one particular episode which was shocking to me and even everyone around me. I was at Dadar station waiting to change trains. And by this time, 3-4 years of walking every day to stations, seeing these eve teasers approach, you develop an intuition. A man walking in front of you suddenly starts changing his direction or something about him. You know he's trying to walk into you. You immediately give him one glare and he knows you know. And then he just straightens up and walks away quietly. This worked about 90% of the time. So the idea was to look confident, to glare back at them. Maybe this is like a body language thing, how they tell you about animals, like stare down and show them you're dominant or something like that. I don't know. But most of the time it worked. You just let them know with your look that you know, and that usually just deters them. So this day at the other station, there was this homeless looking, dirty looking man, old man with matted hair, and he started moving towards me and I was waiting for my train. I realized I just stared at him and he stared back, and then my train came and I got into the train. And once I got into the train, while I was at the door and the train was moving away, this man bounced on me, and what he did was a lot worse than most eve teasers. And everyone around, the men, women, everyone looked so shocked when they saw that. Like, I'm trying to understand what was going on in that man's mind, that here I am, I want to sexually assault this girl. How dare she defy me and stand up to me and glare at me? I will show her. Like, really? Is that how a guy thinks? And all these migrants also, like, who are you? I have a problem with this term eve teasing. Eve and teasing? Is that teasing? That is harassment. That is sexual harassment, where a person doesn't feel safe on a street and you are giving it a light-hearted, fun name like, ooh, Eve teasing. We were just teasing Eve. No, you are not teasing Eve. I am not your Eve and you are not my Adam. You are a random, creepy stranger that is approaching me, invading my personal space, then actually having the gall to touch me sexually without consent, making me feel unsafe. And then you think that's all in fun and games? Like, really? I am not your little piece of meat out there for you to play with. I'm sorry. You're feeling horny? Handle it on your own. I'm not here for you to play with. I'm out there doing my thing. In fact, why should women just feel so scared and worried that they step out in public spaces, they have to be wary, they have to be aware and do their thing and then get into some space? Why do we not have the same freedom and the same right to hang out and walk aram se in a relaxed manner in public spaces without worry and anxiety? I remember when once I was a kid and mom, wanted to go along with dad when he went to Marine Drive. He had a meeting in a building across from Marine Drive, and mom decided to just sit and enjoy the ocean breeze for some time while dad was at his meeting. And she spoke about how these 2 or 3 men approached her as soon as they saw a lone woman sitting there. And she was so scared for her safety. For a few minutes, she was actually in danger. She managed to escape them by entering the building. Like, she had to have her wits about her. So a woman can't even sit in the afternoon alone at Marine Drive without the men around thinking, oh, why don't I assault this woman? She is alone. Like, God. Like, do these guys think that if a woman is out and about by herself or even with another woman, like, oh, this woman stepped out of her house, it is her own fault? Is that what they think? That women should be like locked into the house, and if they dare to step out and do something the way a man would, then she's asking for trouble? Is that what they think? That is such a disgusting thought process. And that is why I have problem reconciling these rural or repressive values. And when my cousins speak in ways that kind of express these values, I feel very uncomfortable and I cannot relate with them. So I wish people would try to elevate themselves and evolve their thinking. So here I was, straddling these two worlds, dealing on the one hand with very small-minded, regressive people, and on the other hand looking at the expanded version of what people and their lives could be. And ever since I was little, I would always try to better myself. Like, I wanted to do workouts, make myself stronger, make myself healthier, fitter, nourish myself better, and just be the best version of myself. I used to pray, I used to be very spiritual. I just wanted to develop myself in all aspects: spiritual, physical, emotional, psychological, become strong, have more endurance, become more patient, become more kind, calm, loving. Here I was trying to just become my best version of myself. I used to try to meditate, but at that time we didn't have so many videos. There were weird instructions. But I used to try to lay my hands on any literature that was about self-development. And at that time, the self-help industry was booming. So you had all these books by Dale Carnegie that was so famous. And I read all of Dale Carnegie's books, Norman Vincent Peale, and those kind, like everything about how to better yourself. And I tried to implement all that. I tried to be more friendly, more patient, and put myself in other people's shoes. All of that. I was just so inspired. And I was trying to be so ladylike. Like, how should ladies be? They don't burp. They don't make sounds while burping, at least. They're always composed, always good posture. And I used to like exercise, keep my hair very good, keep my figure very good, talking well, and good diction. And at that time, when I was in 11th standard, there was this writer called Anthony Robbins, and I had this book, Awaken the Giant Within. And I used to just read it before college. I had to leave for college at 11 because for junior college at Ruya, it was afternoon college. 10 to 11, I used to sit and read this Anthony Robbins book and just inspire myself. And later, this guy became so famous as Tony Robbins. And he has all these programs, all these other books. And as I worked on myself, I tried to dress better. I tried to find better clothes within our limited means of wherever we were shopping. And then I had a friend who told me, hey, let's take you for waxing. And I was like, really? And they took me for my legs waxing. And I had no idea what this is, how it's done. So that lady applied wax on my leg. And then she forgot she had applied it there. And then she turned me. And then I didn't know what was the purpose. And to tell her that, hey, you have wax here and you've forgotten about it. She asked me to turn and I turned and she waxed the back of my leg. And then when she turned me again, my leg was stuck to that seat and she went like, oh. So that's how ignorant I was about what is waxing, how it's done. And probably my first time in a beauty parlor, yes. And I had worn a salwar kameez that day. And when I came out of the beauty parlor wearing my salwar kameez, my legs felt so strange and so light. I was like, wow, my legs feel so different. That's how amazing it felt. Like suddenly some weight was lifted off my legs. I don't know. That day I was wearing a red and orange salwar kameez, which was almost the kind I liked. It almost looked like the cotton clothes I liked, but not quite. In fact, later we went to Rajasthan and I saw the actual beautiful cotton red and orange outfit that I loved. And that was the authentic thing. What I was wearing the day that we did waxing was like a poor copy of the authentic original look. And when I saw it, I was so excited. And we were in Udaipur, I think, and there was a street market, and that's where I had seen it. And I was like, Mom, this is what I want. We were all allowed to select one outfit that day from the street market. And I went to buy it. And then Ruby chimes up for no reason. Don't you already have something of this color? And then Mom didn't let me buy it. And I was so confused. What I had was nothing as gorgeous as this. And just because I had something that was red and orange, why did she think I could not buy something else that was red and orange? That was the trend or the look at that time. And this was one of the best in that look. And it was so cheap. And we were in this Rajasthan market. And my mom refused to buy it after that. And I got so upset. I started crying because I really wanted that. I loved it so much. And when I started crying, my mom slapped me really hard. So here we were on vacation in Rajasthan with permission to buy one outfit of our choice. And Ruby had to say this stupid thing. And mom didn't let me buy that thing. And I had to buy something else which I liked lesser than that original one. And years later, I love these cotton indigo block print outfits. And I remember one day I was trying to buy something more recently, like this year. And Ruby again goes, don't you have something of this color? I'm like, for real, Ruby, are you still doing this? And Ruby loves pastels. She loves all of these pastels, but her favorite is this blue, green jade, or you call it emerald. It's a very pastel and it's a very trendy thing now. And she has about 20 outfits in that color. And whenever she buys outfits for gifting, saris, salwar kameez, she loves to gift clothes to people. Whenever she gifts, it is that color. Everyone around her owns outfits of that green, blue, pastel turquoise. So her cupboard is full of saris and salwar kameez that are turquoise. She's gifted everyone turquoise outfits. And yet, to this day, she has the gall to challenge me or question me about that. I never understood that, why she deprived me of the beautiful outfit that I loved. So what happened was, eventually, I started having access to slightly better clothes, and then my wardrobe started looking a little better. So here I was, Swati had convinced me to kind of leave my hair unoiled and kind of open. I had even managed to get a little fringe, sneakily get a little fringe, little bit trimming I had done without mom noticing. So my hair was looking better now. I was wearing better outfits. I had gotten waxing done. So I was kind of transforming from maybe frumpy behenji look of oily braids, body hair, a look that really didn't suit me, clothes that were weird, to now maybe the swan. Here I was with my best possible figure and taking care of my fitness, taking care of my hair, my skin, and I was really blossoming. I was starting to look really a lot nicer than before. So one day these girls, Swati's friend Paromita and her friend Janvi, they were these really plump girls who seemed to me to not really take care of these things that I was putting so much effort into taking care of, come up to me very nose in the air haughtily saying, oh, your dress sense has improved. And I was taken by surprise by this comment. And I was like, oh, you mean to say earlier I didn't have a good dress sense? And she said, yeah, you didn't. And I thought about it and I realized my dress sense was the same. It's just that I had more exposure now. I knew where I could find better outfits and I had seen better outfits. I knew what was a look that appealed to me and that was the look I was going for. So it was not so much that my dress sense had improved, but that my options had improved and expanded. One day I told my dad that, Dad, I want to go to finishing school. I was so into becoming a lady, becoming the best version of myself, that I really thought that going to finishing school would be the final touch on that, the lack of confidence I had or that little bit of low self-esteem that I had. I thought just this one thing of going to finishing school will address the missing link for me. And Dad agreed. But then he went and spoke to a few people in his office. And in his office was this one useless character called Gondlekar. Now this Gondlekar was a guy who had introduced the concept of Kaizen in Godrej and he was trying to get his PhD in that. And then he wanted to move to Japan, which he did later. And this dude, he just had this bad posture and no personality and no way of talking. Like, I thought he was despicable, and my dad consults him. I don't know why dad went about asking people, and Gondalekar was like, no, that is not needed. She doesn't need that. And then my dad refused to enroll me for finishing school. Until then, he was going to enroll me. And I was so pissed at this useless Gondalekar. Just mind your own business, ducking Gondalekar. So that was the end of that. I thought I would just get a little more polished and get the rough edges smoothened out and really shine like a pearl or a diamond. But that didn't happen, thanks to Gondalekar. But still, I had come a long way from what I was. Nevertheless, the childhood low self-esteem, childhood trauma of being beaten into submission, also never learning to assert myself or stand up for myself, never learning to have boundaries, in fact being ridiculed for even thinking that boundaries exist. That definitely affected me even now. Like, I had become more confident. I felt I was more worldly wise. There was a phrase that time, woman of the world. I thought I was becoming a woman of the world. But still, within, I was this little underconfident child who craved approval, was not sure of things, and did not know her place in the world. So I used to still look for clothes like, what can I wear today? We had limited wardrobes and we used to swap with each other all the time. That's how we could have more options. But one day I thought, let me just wear dad's shirt. So this huge loose shirt, I wore it with trousers and went to college. And almost immediately I regretted it and I felt very, very self-conscious of that look. And over there I met a classmate, Prachi, and she's like, oh, today you're wearing dad's shirt. And I thought, what, is it that obvious? People can just look and know I'm wearing dad's shirt. I thought it would look like those casual large shirts that were in trend a year or two ago. But then she just immediately caught me. Like, it did not look anything like the casual extra large shirts that we used to wear. This very clearly looked like you wore your dad's shirt. And after that, I started feeling so self-conscious about it. I wish I had just not worn it at all that day or any day. So at this time, we were practicing for our annual day college dance. What happened was, I've mentioned a million times that I was a supremely self-conscious kid. So here I was, all the more self-conscious today. And this was the day that it was one day before the actual annual day. So the teachers had arranged for all of us to practice late into the night. But the practice went later than they expected, and then they checked with the hostel and they made arrangements for us to not go home so late but to be put up at the hostel. So they called our homes, or we called home rather, and we took permission from our parents and we were told it's okay. Now, I didn't have a change of clothes and I was not very familiar with the hostel girls or the hostel culture for that matter. So I went in already feeling self-conscious, and then there was this evening roll call going on, the before bedtime roll call going on at that time. And then when they were calling out the names of the students who were staying that one night in the hostel, the warden called out to me and I stood up to go to her. And this one girl stuck her leg out. She was a junior and here I was a senior. She stuck her leg out and tripped me. And I did not know she'd done that on purpose. I thought she did that by mistake. So when I turned around to look at her, she gave me a cheeky grin and waved in a kind of defiant way. And I just thought she's saying hi to me. And I smiled and said hi. And then I went ahead. And then I think the other girls spoke to her and told her that what she did was inappropriate, or someone told her something. So I was sharing a room with a regular hostelite. And then this girl comes knocking to apologize. And when she comes and apologizes, I started crying and I felt so embarrassed. And then she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that. And I'm just thinking to myself, what is wrong with you, Tiny? Why are you crying in front of this little girl? So there were these little bits of me that I did not understand. At that time, I did not have these insights that this is the background, why I am like this. This is why I have low self-esteem. And these are the areas I need to work on, because constantly living in that toxic dynamic family, what are you going to do? I did not even understand that situation. So here I was evolving and trying to be the best version of myself, and yet not understanding these other aspects where I could not assert myself, where I could not stand up for myself, where I could not draw boundaries. I simply did not understand why there were these little bits of me that were still lacking. earlier in the summer vacation, my parents had told me that, hey, we're going to buy you all new bags. So I was very excited and I was thinking about the kind of bag I wanted. At Ruya, I used to carry a purse-like strap bag. You held that bag over one shoulder. So when they took us to the store, it was, I think, this VIP luggage store somewhere in Sion or somewhere. And then we were told to choose haversacks. And immediately I said, no, I don't want to have a sack for a bag, because I was thinking of all these traditional clothes. I used to wear salwar kameez with bindi and all. And then with that, carrying a haversack, to me it looked clashing. I wanted some other kind of like a jhola look that would go well with traditional clothes. But they had intended for us to buy haversacks, brought us to this luggage store, and then they insisted. And I again said, no, I don't want a haversack. And then they got angry. And I just felt forced to choose a haversack. And during that summer vacation, I was supposed to go for dance practice. I had been selected for the annual day. I had gone and auditioned for the dance. The teacher had selected me and I was to participate in Bhangra. Now, all summer we were supposed to go every day to practice. So then one day, the cultural head girl, she was a Tamilian girl, and she was like, do you have any cassettes of Bhangra? Because that choreographer was coming from somewhere. He was an external choreographer. He was not a Sardar or Punjabi. He did not have any Punjabi music. So I was very enthusiastic. I said, yes, I have Bhangra cassettes. So we had this VCR and we used to love these Bhangra songs and Bhangra dances. So I recorded some Bhangra songs and dances on the video cassette, and I carried 2 cassettes to college and I showed them to this cultural committee head girl and also to the choreographer. Then she said, no, I meant audio cassettes. I didn't mean video cassettes. Just get audio cassettes. So I said, okay, and I was disappointed. I thought I went through all this effort and then it meant nothing. So anyway, that day when I was going back home, we had crossed Ghatkopar. I saw Vikhroli station approaching and I stood up and went to the door. And there was this homeless kid in the same compartment, and the child got down behind me, and what I didn't realize was that child had used a blade to slit through the back of my backpack, my haversack, and had stolen those cassettes. And I felt so bad. We had just bought those cassettes. They were brand new. We had no recordings on them. So basically, we had bought them to record stuff. Like if we wanted to record my aerobics, which I saw on TV, or something else. Like we had just bought new cassettes and we were not rich people. These decisions, mom maintained such an iron grip on the money. So them deciding, okay, these many cassettes we buy, that was a big decision. And then somebody just cut my brand new haversack and took those 2 cassettes. That was such a loss. And I felt like I had some intuition about not wanting a haversack. Like within days of buying the haversack or the backpack, this happened. And then for the rest of that academic year, that haversack was sellotaped. And I felt so embarrassed and awkward carrying this sellotaped cut and sellotaped haversack all around everywhere with me. I hated it. But then I didn't have a choice in that matter. So that was that. Later at practice, we were a girls' college. So the teacher decided who would dance as a boy and who would dance as a girl. Now I had such a curvy figure, but still the teacher insisted that I was to dance as a boy. She said, your dance is very boisterous, and like she said, girls do a graceful dance, yours is boisterous. Excuse me, you can be like energetic and graceful. So she felt my dance was energetic and that's why I should be a boy in this dance. And we had to wear jackets for this dance. Now I had big round C-cup breasts, and they would bounce so much when we danced. And yet you've made me a boy. So on the day of the performance, we are ready, we are wearing our Bhangra outfits. We were so excited. We were given the outfit. I took a train, went home. I washed the Bhangra outfit. I ironed it. Took a train from Vikhroli because the function was in the evening. Went back to Sophia College from Vikhroli, and we dressed up and we had that makeup. And I remember looking into the mirror when that foundation and makeup was applied. I had never seen my skin so glowy and beautiful. I'd never seen myself look so good. I couldn't stop staring at myself in the mirror, like I was mesmerized at how good I was looking. So it was our turn to perform. We performed, and this performance was to be repeated the next evening. So it was 2 different days. For maybe one day it was for all the parents and one day for students, something like that. So we went and performed on the stage, and then Ms. Mendes, our psychology teacher, she was the one in charge of our dance. And she tells us the next day we needed to put a safety pin that closed our jackets. Apparently, our breasts were bouncing too much, and that was very visible. And in my mind, I thought it's probably me whose breasts were bouncing the most that the teacher noticed. So there was that. So, in spite of my appearance, I was made to dance as a boy, and I was not convinced about it. And then we had to hide our modesty after that. One more thing that gave me a feeling of not belonging either here or there. When I talk about straddling two worlds, I felt like I belonged everywhere and yet nowhere. So here I was with this army officer dad going to this army club at Juhu and seeing how they had these dances and these parties and beautiful trendy clothes that were worn. Oh my god, the beautiful glamorous clothes that were worn over there. Participating in these May Queen balls and walking the ramp on that fashion show and answering that question that they ask you, hearing the claps when you answer, all of that. Here is this world, and then there is this other world that we're talking about. Now, within the armed forces itself, I noticed such hypocrisy and double standards. This is like a world within a world. If you work for the armed forces, you are self-sufficient. There's little islands of self-sufficiency. Wherever you live, they give you living quarters, they give your children playgrounds, schools, and you have these evening entertainment, you have the pool, you have the club, you have a party area, everything. They have screenings of movies. It's like this fun little world within itself. And yet, their beliefs were inherited from the British armed forces. For instance, if a man has an affair with someone else's wife, he would be tried for a court martial for stealing someone's wife. Now tell me one thing, if someone is a human being, either you kidnap them or you seduce them. You don't steal another person. What is stealing a brother's wife? I don't know. That doesn't make sense. You can't steal a person. So the belief that leads to this statement of stealing a wife means that wife is considered property, not a person. And because she is property, they say you are stealing a brother's wife, which is so ridiculous. It's high time these things are revised. Another thing about the armed forces is how classist they are. So I saw a manifestation of this while I was in Sophia. One day I was speaking to a batchmate called Abha. She was this again trendy looking girl, short haircut, and I was having this conversation and I told her, today I'm going to Navy Nagar. At Sukh and Swarn's place, I had some cousins visiting that day and I was to go visit them. And mom and dad would also arrive over there. So Abha is like, oh, Navy Nagar, I live there too. Which building? Where exactly are you going? So I innocently told her the address of Swarn and Sukh. Apparently, by listening to the address, you get to know if it is the army officers' quarters or the Jawan quarters. So we had discussed that we could leave together. Like, we decided where we would meet, and she would wait for me near the exit, and then we would go together, take the same bus, and we would have each other's company reaching over there. And I said, okay, I'll see you then after class at 3:30 or whatever. At 3:30, I went to the designated spot and waited and waited and waited. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Abha didn't turn up. She sneaked out from somewhere, I don't know. I had no idea what made her behave like that. I thought we had a conversation. We discussed that we'll meet here and leave together. What happened? And as I was introspecting and trying to think, what did I do? Did I say something to offend her? Did I do something? I was thinking about it, and then it hit me. The address, she asked me the address, and I gave her the address of a Jawan's quarters, not an army officer quarters. And immediately, she didn't want to have anything to do with me. I was so shocked that people can be so shallow. I just couldn't believe it. And the next morning, I saw Abha in college in the corridor, and I gave her a weak smile, and she just gave me like a smile and walked away. Nothing was discussed, nothing was said. I was just so hurt. People can be this shallow? Wow. Every time such a thing happened, the eve teasing, someone treating me badly, someone commenting on my clothes, all of this, it was a little disheartening. It made me shrink a little. So I was very sensitive to these things, especially with being very self-conscious as it is. So here I was on my self-evolution, self-betterment journey, and also not able to understand these gaps. And I was so desperate to just make myself blend into these South Bombay people. I really wanted that when I'm among all of these people, in this glamorous part of the city, I should just be considered one of them. I did not understand why I still stood out like a sore thumb, why someone who saw me immediately knew that I was not from that part of town or I did not have that upbringing. I could not understand that. Nevertheless, I had come a long way from when I had started as an anemic little child who was weak and kind of pathetic. I had developed so much within myself. I had learned to be a very kind, very patient, very loving person. I had become very non judgmental at this time in my life. I was very accepting. I was a great friend and I put my 100% into everything. But there was also this incredible amount of innocence and naivety that was still very much within me, and also no idea how to stand up for myself, how to defend myself. In fact, on the contrary, I thought I had to just allow people to bully me. That is how I interpreted everything I had learned. That it's okay, just don't confront and try and understand them, forgive them. That is what I was trying to live by. And that is why I became very vulnerable when someone was a predator. I did not know how to defend myself. I believed in just being humble and kind, and I had never even heard of the concept of standing up for yourself. So here I was trying to better myself so much, and yet some key areas that were really, really required, those were never addressed, and those would lead to my downfall later. So this is a long one. I'll see you in the next episode. Till then, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.